The barren lands and forest fringes of northern Canada are the feeding ground of large herds of caribou. These roaming herds are still the mainstay of thousands of Canada's Indians and Eskimos. In this film, you will meet the Crees and the Chippewas, nomadic Indian hunters of northern Manitoba.
Lots of people in Brochet Church this Easter morning. Don't often see so many. Aren't enough of us Cree Indians here at the trading post to fill the church. But at Easter time, it's too early for hunting, and the Chippewas are down from the barren lands to trade their furs, so they come to church with us. Sometimes the white man brings influenza into the north, and our people catch it. Among us, it spreads very quickly, and many die. This poor one was just a baby, only 4 months old. His name was Peter Cook. He will never see the Chippewas pitch their tents. The Chippewas are always on the move. They are hunters. In the summer, out on the barrens of the Northwest Territories. In the winter, a bit farther south, near us Crees. That's at the north end of Manitoba, about 300 miles from Hudson's Bay. The Chippewas are a strong people. Even their old women can travel. John Dunneogan traps mink and trades the pelts at the post. Traveling over our trap lines is hard going, and we have to have sled dogs. When this puppy grows up, he will have to work. A beaver house, still in good condition. Beaver are wintering inside. George Michel will trap good fur here later in the season. He will leave one pair alive for breeding. Some white men trap out a whole beaver house and then leave, but Michel is a Cree. His home is here on the Sawbill River near Reindeer Lake. He wants to be sure there will always be plenty of fur on his trap lines. Maybe a mink here. Bad luck. He's just a Cheetamus red squirrel, not worth much. Sometimes we get otter, ermine, or fisher. Sometimes fox or marten. Aha, aha. This time he's a mink. His fur will bring a good price at the trading post. At the end of George Michel's trap line, he gets to Solomon Cook's trapping grounds. Sometimes they meet and make camp together for the night. If they are lucky, they might get a nice fat partridge for supper. Before you put up the tent, you have to pack down the snow, so Solomon Cook, he goes for a little walk. The camp is on the shore of a little lake, but the ice is too thick to chop through. There is no water anywhere for thirsty men, so they will have to melt snow to make tea. Solomon has brought in a young balsam. He will cut branches from it and spread them in the tent to make a floor between the men and the snow. They will sleep warm tonight. We are hunters, and we live mostly on meat. The animal we depend on is the caribou. The camp is always anxious for the caribou hunters to return. When there is extra meat left over, we keep it high up so wandering dogs cannot reach it. But mostly we keep the dogs tied up. They're always hungry. If we let them loose, the strongest ones would get all the meat. And they would eat anything in camp made of leather, like their harness and moccasins and snowshoe webbing. They are hungry because they work hard pulling the sleds. But we feed them enough to keep them strong. We couldn't do without them. Besides meat and fur, we get leather from the caribou. Fine soft leather for moccasins and mitts and gloves. And we need plenty of those in wintertime. Our women are very smart with their needles and thread. They sew patterns of colored beads on the leather. We like to wear these things ourselves, men and women both. Sometimes we sell a few to the Hudson's Bay Company. At Brochet Post, the Hudson's Bay man is glad to see a fine catch of beaver and otter. He knows prime fur, can't fool him. It is good to get credit at the store to buy flour, salt, ammunition, and plenty of tea and tobacco. So when we meet the other Indians in from their trap lines, we all have a good time together. Most of the time, though, we stay out in the bush. The caribou are always moving, so we must be ready to move our camps to follow them. But they are not always easy to find. One time we had not seen a single caribou for many days. We were getting weak with hunger. Then, suddenly, they came. Before we ever saw them, the dogs had smelled them. So we got ready to hunt in the morning. But our luck was bad. Kiwetin, the north wind, blew a storm upon us. Our women had to get more firewood to fight the cold. We men kept hunting anyway because the people were starving. But the storm grew worse and we began to freeze, so we returned to camp with empty sleds. For 3 whole days, Kiwetin kept blowing. It was very cold, 40 below zero. We could not go out of the camp at all. On the fourth day, the sun shone again. Already Mohegan, the wolf, was out hunting before us. If he does not find the caribou, he will starve like us. But we forgot to be hungry now that there was work to do. We prepared everything carefully. It might be a long trip. The lakes and rivers are always flat and smooth, the easiest places for dogs and men to travel, and for the caribou too. In the woods it is harder. The snow is so soft and deep. Then we found what we were looking for, fresh caribou tracks. Michel found a spot where they had pawed through the snow to eat the moss they live on. We knew they could not be very far away. We were running fast now to catch up with Atigok. That is our name for the caribou, Atigok. Each of us wanted to be the first to kill meat. Aha! There would be a good bunch ahead. There were many tracks. And then we saw them, over there by the shore. Atigok! Atigok! And so our search for meat was finished. We could fill our bellies and feed the dogs. They too had worked hard for it. The women would keep the skin for making a parka or a blanket. Then we could keep as warm as the caribou. Michel, Solomon, all of us were anxious to get back to the main camp with our meat. We would reach there next day and bring our women and children over to where there was plenty of caribou. When we made camp that night, we ate the heads of the caribou ourselves. They are very good, roasted over the fire. We are hunters, and this is our life. For the rest of the winter, we will follow the caribou to the northern edge of the forest, and then the Chippewas will track them out onto the barrens in the spring. Up here, the spring comes late, but at last the strong sun melts the snow and uncovers the brown earth, and brown feathers grow in the white winter coat of the ptarmigan. The caribou spread out over the barrens again. It is the same every year. The herds spend the winter down in the edges of the forest. In the spring, they go north again to the barrens. The fawns are born there. The caribou is restless. He is a wanderer, and so are we who hunt him. So long as the great herds last, we will follow them. Wherever the caribou go, we go. Without them, we could not stay in this land. To us, they are like life itself.